For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Christine Phillips. I am on the management team here at Journey Church, and one of my responsibilities is financial stewardship. So these classes are part of that, is being able to provide some, equip you guys with some information on how to be good stewards of your money. Another part of that we are trying to grow is being able to provide kind of budget coaching for you. So as you go through this class, if you need any help with figuring out how to do a budget, how to get out of debt, let me know. Like I said, I'll send this out, so you can, even if you don't want to do it today, shoot me an email and say, hi, I'd like some help. It's very confidential, and we can help you get on track to determine what your next steps are to help be more financially faithful with your money. As you know, today's topic is retirement, and I know some people writing it down. Some of the information from this came from the book Retire Inspired by Chris Hogan, who he works for Ramsey Solutions, if you're familiar with Dave Ramsey. And he's one of their Ramsey personalities and focuses more on the retirement side of things. But also, as we get into a lot of the different retirement plans out there, I went to the good old IRS.
Bless you, she's learning the IRS.
But anyways, to get that information, mainly so to make sure that I had the latest information for you to present for today. So with that, I'm going to use my phone to control the slides. See?
Maybe.
Technology. There we go. Oops, went too far. All right, so first thing when we're talking about retirement, and this was from the Retired Inspired, kind of the 3 Ds of retirement. And they are, the first one being dreaming. Dreaming will give you the motivation and kind of that end goal. We all need something to motivate ourselves as to what we are striving for when we want to get into retirement. Second is determining, and that is kind of giving you the financial number you need to achieve that dream. And then the third is discipline, which is developing the right habits to stay on track. So as we go through these, let's first dream. Now, a lot of times, the original thought behind retirement is that you're kind of going off in isolation. I don't like that. That makes it sound like we're preparing ourselves to die, and that's not what it's all about. We're preparing ourselves to live, kind of that next step, and live our dream. Maybe that dream is, that beach house, or maybe your dream is that cabin in the woods by the mountains, or buying a motorcycle and riding across country. Your dream simply maybe you want to do more volunteer work in the community, or you may even love your current job and simply want the ability to work there part-time while you're enjoying some other aspects of life. That is not my dream, by the way. Some people have that dream, and I really admire people that are that dedicated and really love what they do. So what I'd like you to do first, and on your sheet of paper, I did have a question for you to just kind of think about that. What is your dream? What inspires you to come to the class today? Maybe something a little different than what your dream is. So just kind of think of what is your dream that you want to achieve for retirement? I'm going to give you a couple minutes so you can answer that question.
I'll share mine. My dream is to drink my coffee every morning watching the sunrise over the ocean from my porch.
Nice.
Hands up in the air, that's kind of your dream, right? I like that. Yeah, and that's true. I mean, and I picked this picture for a reason. My husband and I have property up in Highland County. We don't have a view of that spectacular of a mountain, but we do have some pretty nice views of the mountains. And we would like to build a cabin up there and retire there someday. So that's kind of our dream. Anybody else have any other dreams they'd like to share before we continue? Because this is the fun part.
I'd like to have some land with a hobby farm.
A hobby farm. Yeah, that's kind of.
We both share that same kind
Yeah,
of.
that same passion, exactly. Yeah, my husband even now will even say, up in Monterey, let's plant this and let's plant that. I'm like, we don't even have time to do that in Roanoke. I want to do it up there. You have to wait. So anyway, so yeah, it's fun stuff. All right, so we're gonna. So next is determine, and this is really answering the question, what do I need to retire? And there could be a lot of questions that are involved with this. One is, what will my anticipated monthly expenses be? We know what it costs to live month to month now. After I retire, is that going to change? What's that going to look like? How much do I need to fund my dreams? That's more of the overall amount of money I need in order to live day to day and be able to achieve my dream. At what age do I want to retire? Like I said, the determining can be hard and the questions can be overwhelming. And this is where really getting a good financial advisor can help read through all those questions and help you kind of define what is that number that I need in order to achieve my retirement dream. In the Retire Inspired book, Chris Hogan gives this website. And like I said, I'll send this out to everybody so that you can get to that. He has a tool on there that he calls the RIQ, which stands for Retired Inspired Quotient. And it uses, it's a good idea if you do decide to do that, to kind of think of those questions of, what do I think my monthly expenses could be? You can even, when I went through the RIQ, I actually just said, okay, well, our expenses, these are our monthly expenses now, I'll just use that as a guide. And I hope they don't really change after retirement, and what age I want to retire. And it'll kind of go through and calculate what that number is. Also on that website, it has a link to help you find a financial advisor in the area if you don't have one already. So this is kind of the determine phase. Before I go on to the discipline, does anybody have any questions on that? Now discipline. So these are determining what are the key habits do I need to get to my dream, to get where we need to go. So habit one is establishing a written monthly budget. Your monthly budget is really that tool. It's a key tool to determine not only what you're doing with your income from month to month, but it also helps you look at your monthly expenses and determine what will my monthly expenses be after I retire. Maybe part of your goal is, well, if I pay off my mortgage, then that will reduce my monthly expenses. Or if I pay off this debt, that way it'll help reduce those monthly expenses after retirement. It helps you be able to see those things, and that kind of gets into evaluating your needs and wants. You can kind of look and say, and determine, well, this is something I'm doing now because I enjoy it, but if I cancel cable, for instance, and that gives me another $100 a month that I can put towards saving towards retirement in the short term so that I can get where I need to go. So it really does help you prioritize what you're giving, what you're saving, and what you're spending. Now, if the idea of actually putting a whole bunch of numbers on paper and doing a complete detailed monthly budget is a little overwhelming, a good place to start, and Michael mentioned it in the service this morning, is that 10-10-80 plan as a good starting point where you're giving 10%, saving 10%, and then the 80%, I kind of liked how he said 80% to live. A lot of times they say 80% to spend, but either way, that is a good place to start if you have never done a monthly budget before. Now the second habit is to get out of debt and stay out of debt. And that kind of goes to before, when we're talking about your anticipated monthly expenses. You don't want to have to be paying off debt while you're retired. That actually helps secure your future and secure your dream if you don't have that debt. So the way you do that is really, first you want to pay off all your consumer debt, like your credit cards, your car loans, and get those paid off first. And then try to save up an emergency fund. That helps stay out of debt because you know things are going to happen. You know, things like your car breaking down or the water heater blowing up, or those things happen. You get sick and you have medical expenses. So if you have an emergency fund, then that helps prevent you from having to take out your credit card and pay for that emergency. You can pay for it out of savings. And a general rule of thumb for an emergency fund is you want to try to save up about 3 to 6 months of your expenses, your needs, your immediate expenses that are needed. And kind of a third step in getting out of debt is pay off your mortgage. And that's probably one of our biggest expenses month to month. So could you imagine, what your anticipated retired earning expenses are if you don't have a mortgage? That's a pretty nice place to be able to not have a mortgage when you go into retirement. Is there any questions on debt? We did one of the workshops was on getting out of debt and learning about the debt snowball and how to do that. So if you go to the Journey, you're on Facebook and go to the Journey Church page, you can search on that page and just search for debt, and that video should pop up if you want to watch that. And I had a lot of extra handouts, so if you want the handout for that, I'm happy to share that with you today. Next. And the third is strive to save 15% of your income into the retirement fund. So 10% is a really great starting point, but if you can bring it up to 15%, that'll help you get to your goals faster. So how do I do that? What is a retirement fund? There's a lot of terms out there: 401k, IRA, Roth, 403b, HSA, a lot of different plans out there. So this is where like I said, if you have not filled out the sign-in sheet and gave your email address, please do so. I'm going to go through some of these terminologies so you can understand what they are and what your options are, and just hopefully help you decide what's the best path for you. And a lot of the information, there's a lot of contribution limits and dollar values. They change from year to year, so I did look up what the most recent numbers are. So all the numbers showed today are for 2018. So first we're going to talk about 401ks. This is probably the term you see the most with a lot of companies. A lot of companies offer a 401k for a retirement fund. And what it does is it defers money from your paycheck into a retirement fund that can be invested in a bunch of different mutual funds, one or many. And the reason that I say defer is because what it does is it takes that money off of your gross income, so that way it reduces your taxable income now. So that's the one benefit of a 401k, or at least a traditional 401k. The downside is after you retire and you start receiving distributions from your 401k, they are taxable, including the earnings that you earn. They are taxable. What's nice, though, also is employers can contribute. They will match, and it's usually based on a percentage, and we'll look at that in a little bit. They will actually match up to a certain percentage of your income into the 401k. Now, the limits for 2018, you can contribute up to $18,500 a year. And if you're over 50, though, they actually have what they call a catch-up, where you can actually put in an additional $6,000 per year in order to catch up to save for yours. So this is the most traditional form of retirement fund with a company. One thing that they are starting to do is provide a Roth 401k. And Roth is an option usually that you can select from your employer. And what that does is when you're contributing your money into a Roth 401k, it is being done after you've paid taxes on it. So it does not reduce your taxable income now, but after you retire and you start receiving distributions, you can actually get those distributions tax-free. The employer can still contribute to a Roth 401k, so they'll still do that match. And I believe, Mike, I think you had mentioned their contributions that were taxable, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so Mike Delahunt is my expert. I'm going to ask questions. So, but you figure that's going to be a lot less taxes on your distributions than the traditional 401k.
Got a question.
Yeah.
On the 401k, the straight 401k, the catch-up,
Mm-hmm.
does that, my understanding is that has to come out of your paycheck? You can't take it out of a savings account and,
I believe so, yes. With 401ks, that's usually deferred directly from your paycheck.
but I'm saying the catch-up, the 6,000 catch-up at
The
the end.
catch-up as well, yes.
Yes, okay.
That's why you might want to stop.
Yeah, and that's where it gets, because usually when your contributions, it's a percentage of your income, so you have to do, a little figuring on what that is. There's no percentage-wise, really a limit. It's a dollar value limit as far as what you can contribute. So that, depending on your pay, it could be a pretty significant percentage you can put back from your income in order to get there. So that's a good question, though. And then with a Roth 401k, those contribution limits are the same. So any question on the Roth?
There are rules about that you have to take distributions at a certain age too, right? With 401ks or
Is there, yeah.
Correct.
Yes.
Not the Roth, but the regular 401k or an IRA, you have to begin withdrawals. If you don't need the money up until then, good for you.
like 7 years?
But you have to begin withdrawals at age 70 and one half.
Okay.
Not in the Roth, though. That's one of the advantages of the Roth.
So just the
Just the standard.
Regular 401k or an IRA.
IRA, okay.
Is it the same for a 403B?
Yes,
Yeah, and
ma'am.
that's actually, thanks. Vicki, that's
Sorry, I
the
happen to have one, so.
Yes, that's the next topic. I know, and I put this in there because Carillion is one of the biggest employers in the area here, and they are a nonprofit. So they actually have a 403B. These numbers, really all they are is the section of the tax code. 403Bs are very, very similar to 401Ks. They're just designated for public schools and tax-exempt organizations. So Carillion is a tax-exempt. And actually, I guess there's probably a lot of tax-exempt organizations in the area that offer 403Bs. It is very, very similar to a 401K. It's just, a different number. Employers, just like a 401K, they can contribute to an employee's 403B, a match up to a certain percent. The contribution limits are similar, so $18,500 for, and if you're over 50, you can add $6,000 to that. There may also be a years of service catch-up contribution. That is an option that is available for 403Bs. That you would have to check with your employer if they allow that option. It's usually around 15 years of service where you can add an additional dollar amount above and beyond the $6,000. So there's a good opportunity with 403Bs to be able to do that catch-up. If you do work for a nonprofit, it may also be called a tax sheltered annuity. It's just another name for the same thing, or a TSA. I don't like acronyms, so any acronym in here, hopefully I have spelled it out. And if not, you have the right to yell at me and say you forgot. Because there's a lot of acronyms when it comes to retirement funds. So are there any questions on 403Bs? These are some of the more typical company ones. Now we'll get into more individual accounts. You probably heard the term IRA. IRA actually stands for Individual Retirement Arrangement. And so this is truly for individuals. Any individual can open up an IRA. Even if you have a 401k, if you want to put additional money aside someplace else, you can open an IRA if you like. So this is something that you can set up. The contribution limits are $5,500 per year per individual. And then if you're 50 or older, those contribution limits are $6,500 a year. It's probably best with an IRA that you work with a to get an IRA set up. And then there's two different types. So just like the 401k, you can have the traditional type, so your contributions that you're putting back to the traditional IRA can be deducted from your taxes now. Or you can have the Roth IRA, which cannot be deducted. But then, similar to the Roth 401k, your distributions are tax-free. So what's nice about the Roth IRA, as Mike mentioned before, is you can contribute to a Roth, well, forever, really. I mean, there's no age limit to when you cannot contribute to a Roth, just as there is no age limit as to when you have to start taking it out. There is a salary limit, though, to the Roth IRA. So if you are married and your combined gross income is $199,000 or more, or if you're single and your gross income is $135,000 or more, you cannot do a Roth. But anyway, otherwise, it's a very good vehicle to start saving for retirement that will be tax-free after you retire. So are there any questions about the Roth IRA before I continue?
Are either of those considered simple?
I'm going to get to simple.
Now, you're talking about that you could have, if you already have one through your employer, you could get another one too, like the IRA. But then there is kind of limitations on that too, as to your contributions, whether they'll actually be helpful for your tax returns.
Right, and so, like for instance, my company, like it's mine, I work for Ingersoll Rand, that is not my company. But anyway, the company I work for, they have a good 401k, but they don't offer the Roth option. So what my husband and I did is we opened a separate Roth IRA, so that way we can have a balance to money we're contributing now that is helping with taxes now versus money that we have later, where we can have the tax advantage later. So that's kind of the thought behind opening up a separate IRA, is having that balance between the two. Or if your company, for whatever reason, doesn't offer any type of retirement fund, that's not as typical now as it used to be, but I'm sure there's still some small companies out there that don't offer it. Next thing I want to talk about health savings accounts. You don't really think of these as being retirement funds, but a health savings account is something fairly new, and these are accounts that are yours. So many companies are offering health savings accounts for you to open up if they offer you a high deductible insurance plan. But they are your accounts that you can take with you. So if you leave that organization when you retire, that money rolls over year to year in a health savings account, and you can take it with you after you retire. And it's a really good way to be able to fund health expenses in your retirement. So there are some contribution limits. An individual can contribute up to, it's an odd number, $3,450 per year into a health savings account. Or for a family, if you're the head of household or a part of a family, you can do $6,900 per year. And if you're 55 or older, there is a $1,000 per year catch-up per person for the contributions. And a health savings account is kind of similar. The funding is similar to your IRAs in that once you get to a certain amount of dollars in your health savings account, it can be invested in mutual funds, and you can earn interest, and you can actually get earnings on your health savings account. The key is that these funds are, capital T where it's not needed. You can open these funds and they can be used for qualified medical expenses, the only use for them. But again, it's a good way to be able to pay for your medical expenses now and in retirement, since you can take it with you. I have some additional information. You are eligible to open a health savings account if you have a high deductible health plan, and you have no other health coverage. You aren't enrolled in Medicare, so if you are enrolled in Medicare, you're not eligible to open a health savings account. and you can't be claimed as a dependent on somebody else's tax return. So those are kind of the qualifications of being able to open a health savings account.
What is a high deductible health plan? What does it start at? I mean, for the deductible?
The deductible, I think, is pretty close to your contribution limits, $3,450 per individual and $6,900 per family. That's one that it's a good idea to talk to your benefits person at work to see if yours qualifies. I don't think Carilions does, based on what I see, unless there's another option that Patrick hasn't told me about. But they have good health insurance. They're a healthcare provider, so I'm not complaining.
If you've got an HSA open already, can you continue to contribute to the HSA if you're on Medicare? You say you can't open one, but can you?
I don't think so. I don't think if you have one and you're on Medicare, you cannot continue to contribute to it.
Because I think Medicare is usually charged first, and then your other insurance,
I
right?
think that's,
I
yes.
think that's how it goes.
Yep. Any other questions on that? A lot of different options there, so I was going to kind of go through a couple next steps. And then we can talk a little bit about kind of steps and simples at the end. I have a couple slides on that.
I have a question. If you work at a place and they have an HSA, however, you don't have insurance, health insurance through them, can you open up an HSA savings account?
No, Mike is shaking his head.
No, you have to be a participant in that plan.
Okay, so
You have to pair the HSA with the high deductible health insurance plan.
It is a little confusing because I know my plan and I am,
Because I'm on my husband's plan.
but is your husband's plan a high deductible health plan? I know my health plan is a high deductible health plan, so I have an HSA. My husband works for Carilion, so he went into their health insurance. But because he's part of my family, that sounds funny to say out loud, he can actually use my health savings account for expenses. So I know there's that, but one person within the family has to have a high deductible health plan or open an HSA. So that might be something for your husband to look into to see. All right, so there's a couple ways, what do we do with all this information? And there's a couple different options I'm going to walk through as to next steps. So if you have a company-sponsored plan, your company matches, start with taking advantage to that match and put as much up to the match of into your company's plan. So if your company matches 2%, contribute 2% of your salary to start. And then the second option, then the next step would be open a Roth IRA and contribute your annual max, whatever that may be, in contributions into your Roth. And then if those two put together still don't equal 15% of your salary, then go back to your 401k and increase your contributions to get to that 15%. So this option is good if your company does not offer a Roth. So again, so that way you can get that balance between tax advantages now versus tax advantages later. It's also good if for whatever reason you can't contribute to a health savings account or have a health savings account now. So this is one option as to how to get to that 15% amount. And I put in a little bit of an example just to make it a little simpler to understand. So let's assume you make $50,000 per year and your company matches 2%. Put 2% of your salary into your company-sponsored plan, so that's about $83 per month or $1,000 per year. So next, start setting aside, it would be about $458 per month, and put it into a Roth. If you do that per month, in 12 months you'll have $5,500, which would go into a Roth plan and max out your Roth, and that's actually 11% of your salary. So that together is 13%. So now, this is where you can kind of look at your budget and say, okay, well, I want to get to 15%, say for retirement, where can I free up that other 2% of my salary, figure out where that is, and actually up your company-sponsored plan to a 4% contribution instead of just 2%. Does that make sense for that particular example? Yeah.
I have a question, or maybe a comment more. We've been trying to figure out all this retirement stuff too, because we've kind of not, in past years, had very much money to work with. And now
Right.
we've got a little bit more, so we're trying to catch up a little.
Okay,
And so we're actually doing like 20% right now.
that's awesome.
But then, also, we've known of other people, we've done it too. It's like if you have a little extra money come in, you can, like if you can even put all of your money from paychecks for
Yes.
each month in there to catch up and then live off of your savings or whatever, if you have something like that. You can do that, but then
Right.
other couples who have, like two couples each working, I've heard of, one of them giving up their whole paycheck, like
Yes.
towards,
That's a very good
Retirement.
point. And I have, there's actually one young woman that I work with. She started working, I actually worked for Train, but Train's owned by Ingersoll Rand. She started working for Train when she was 18 years old. So right away, they automatically, most places have automatic enrollment. They automatically put you in for something like 2% anyway, towards the whatever retirement plan. Well, every year, she would up it by 1%.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
Every time I get my raise.
Every time she gets you, she ups it another %. So she's now 30 years old. I don't know how much she's putting back. She hasn't been, been open enough to share that much, but that young lady's going to certainly be prepared for retirement to start at 18 and just each year upping a percentage.
But I don't have a Roth IRA, so would I be better off to put some of that money into a Roth instead of putting it all into my?
Yeah, and putting some into a Roth, it's a good option. This is a good option for you with the plan that you have. All right, and then let's look at option 2. And then again, this is good if you want to try to, if you have an HSA and you want to say, it's also good if your company does have that Roth option so you can take advantage. You start the same, so just contribute 2% of your salary into your company-sponsored plan, and you can choose if you want to put that in traditional to save taxes now, you can, or if they have a Roth available, put it in the Roth, either way. Next, contribute to your HSA up to the match. One thing I didn't mention, the HSA, as far as tax rules, are very similar to a traditional IRA, and so those contributions are tax deductible now. And if you, actually now and later, because you can only use it for medical expenses, so they're not going to tax you to pay for your medical expenses. So really, it's a kind of a win-win as far as taxes are concerned.
now you can, I got another question, but
Sure.
you can you contribute, and I think I've heard this is right, but per social security number, like you can have an account for, like a 401k for each of us or something
Oh,
like
yeah.
that. But as long as it doesn't exceed like your income, like limits, there's some kind of limits or something as to percentage or.
For the you mean for setting up an
For,
IRA?
like, I'm just saying, like, maybe I'm thinking more of like income tax advantages. But you could do all of that but you
Yes.
wouldn't get all the tax advantages if you put the maximum in for everybody.
Well, yeah, so yes, there are, you can each set up, and in our house, just because I change jobs a lot, so I have my 401k at work, I have an IRA, because I had to find a place to put everybody else's 401ks from the half a dozen other companies I've worked for. And plus, we've opened a Roth IRA in order to take advantage of the taxes. So it's more of a contribution limit than an overall dollar limit. So I don't contribute to my traditional IRA anymore. It's really just a holding place for all the other 401ks from the other companies I work with. And but we do contribute to and I say we in the sense that I contribute to my Roth IRA, my husband contributes to his Roth IRA, and then we both contribute to our company-sponsored plans. And so in that path of trying to take advantage of the different tax options. I
So-
think that answers your question.
Yeah, I'm thinking so. I guess maybe I was stuck because of tax season. I was just thinking of tax
Yeah.
advantages, but you can contribute to anything up to whatever the maximum is.
Exactly. Yep. All right, so in this example, again, 50,000, and say your company matches 2%. Put 2% of your salary into the company-sponsored plan. So that's about, again, $83 per month or $1,000 per year. So in order to get to that $3,450 match, that's setting aside $287.50. I know it's an exact number, but if you have your HSA with your company, you can have that pulled out of your paycheck per month to max out your contributions. And so that's 7% of your salary. So now you have, that's just 9%. So if you can free up another 6% and go back and put it into your company sponsored plan and take advantage, if that Roth is available, you can do that. If they don't have a Roth and you have an HSA, then maybe that 6% is being put aside to a separate Roth IRA account that you have set up to take advantage of that Roth. So that's just kind of another example of how to put aside 15% for your salary. Any questions on those examples? Getting into, I called it frequently asked questions, but it's really questions that I anticipated for today, since this is the first time I've done this presentation, so I don't really have frequently asked questions yet. So a lot of your questions today I may get into. And the first one gets into what if I'm self-employed. So there are a couple options if you're self-employed or run your own business. One is called a Simplified Employee Pension Plan, or a SEP. And like the name implies, it is a pension plan in that the employer is putting money back into retirement. It is, but it's a very low cost retirement plan that self-employed individuals can use as well. My husband for a season ran his own business, and he had a SEP IRA, sometimes they're called SEP IRAs, but it's actually more of a pension plan. He had a SEP plan set up, and he worked with his accountant at the end of each year, and that they just look at the accounting for the business, and they put a set amount of money aside into the SEP to help with his company taxes, because it's very similar to an IRA from a taxable standpoint. You can deduct whatever your contributions are from your income. The contribution limit is 25% of employees' compensation, or $55,000 per year, whichever is less. So it's significantly more than just a regular IRA that you would open up as an individual. So that's kind of the advantage of it. The disadvantage is because it's a pension plan, then you are required, if you have employees, you're required to set one up for each one of your employees. And your employees can't contribute to it. It's truly just an employer-sponsored plan. So that is the SEP. And the guidance is if you are hiring employees, you may want to opt for the simple IRA, which is just the other option. And SIMPLE stands for Savings Incentive Match Plan for Employees. So you are eligible to set a simple IRA up if you have 100 employees or less. And it's very, very similar to a 401k. But it's a lot easier and less expensive for companies to set up, so it's ideal for a small company. The contribution limits are a little less than a standard 401k, though. You can contribute up to $12,500 per year. Or if you're over 50, the catch-up is an additional $3,000 per year. So those are the simple IRA is like I said, very similar to kind of the 401k, just with lesser contribution limits. Any questions or any other thoughts on?
So the SEP then would be better for individuals who don't have employees?
Correct. Or if you have employees that, maybe only work part-time, I don't know if, Mike, do you know if they have like intermittent employees or seasonal employees that don't work full-time, would a SEP work better, or are you required?
You can exclude certain employees who don't meet certain amount of service per year.
Yep, okay. So that would be otherwise the simple IRA, financial advisor can help you get something.
And those contributions, are they taxed beforehand in like the SEP, or?
Yes,
The SEP is deductible for the employer,
yes,
so it's like a normal business expense for the employer. It's tax deductible.
yeah.
And then it would be taxable to the employee, but only when they take it out.
I've got a traditional IRA, because I had a 403B
Mhm.
that I couldn't fund in myself, so I
Right.
had it, it was just sitting there and nothing going on.
Right, so
So-
you probably rolled that 403B into an
I did a
IRA.
traditional one, but
Yeah.
you talk about Roth, is it, isn't it better than the traditional? I maybe I should have done that.
Well, so,
I know it's pre-taxed.
yes,
Yeah,
so
basically.
now that it's there, can you contribute, can you transfer traditionals to Roths anymore? I know at one point in time you could.
Yes, with certain rules,
You have a
yes.
penalty or something?
Well, you have to pay taxes, so if you
Taxes,
yeah.
convert a traditional IRA to a Roth IRA, you have to pay taxes all in the year in which it's converted.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So it depends on the value of it. If it's a low dollar amount, then
Yeah.
it's worthwhile.
Yeah.
But
just
if
kinda-
there's a decent amount of money in it, it's better just to leave it there. Because you don't want to pay taxes. Let's say you've saved $100,000 in your traditional IRA, you don't want to pay taxes on $100,000.
No, no,
So it would depend on the amount,
right.
if
Just
it's
sort of-
worthwhile or not.
Okay,
Probably the better thing is, which is what I'm doing, is I just leave my traditional IRA money in there, and I'm now starting to contribute to a Roth.
okay. So you feel like a Roth is the best option
If you
regarding
are,
taxes?
yes.
You have less taxes?
You have less taxes after retirement.
Okay,
So in other words, you won't be taxed on the distributions from your Roth. If you don't have any type of Roth IRA or anything now, then that's probably a good thing to set up and start saving towards.
okay.
Any other questions on self-employed or? The other question is, what about Social Security? Social Security was always intended to be a supplement, not a salary replacement. And some statistics, the average monthly Social Security benefit in 2017 was only $1,369 per month. And that's average. That means some people got less, and where some people got a little bit more. That is only $16,428 per year, which is just above the federal poverty level for a family of two. So very difficult to achieve your dreams on Social Security. Always think of Social Security as kind of a bonus, and not your base salary. So that's just kind of the extra that comes in handy at the end. And those are my two questions, and I'm glad everybody had some great questions as we went. Are there any other questions or any other things you want to go over concerning retirement?
What company has an ESOP program set up? Employee owned?
Employee savings,
Employee stock ownership.
Stock
That's it.
ownership.
stock ownership plan.
I'm still trying to understand how that kind of plays in the whole scheme of things.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times the ESOPs, they're kind of like a 401k in stock. And they put the money in stock. Now, do they have an ESOP and a 401k, or is it, yeah. And I worked for a company that had that, and actually, when I left there, what our financial advisor did, they took the ESOP and they rolled it over into a rollover IRA. And that company's been doing very well, so it was actually very advantageous for us, but because the stock has been doing well. So it's really just, I actually, when I was working there, kind of thought of the ESOP as just bonus, because whatever the stock did, that was what was growing. So sometimes, as you know, sometimes they can grow and do great if the company's doing great, but then if something happens and the company tanks, then your stock tanks. It's a little bit more volatile than a mutual fund, which is a collection of stocks and other type of funds that tend to be a little bit less volatile. So your ESOP is kind of your bonus.
So if you retire and you want to cash that in, I mean, do they just give it to you like a pension, or what is it?
It would get rolled over into an IRA.
It does go into, you can't just.
I don't know. It's a good question, Mike. I mean, I'm assuming ESOPs get rolled over into an IRA and then distributed that way? Is that-
Typically, right, so there's
Okay.
usually, depending on the type of ESOP is probably valued once a year by an independent auditor, and so they may not, depending on when your retirement date is, it may not be available right away.
Oh, okay.
But then a calculation would be made as to the value, and as long as there wasn't a transaction going on where the company was being bought out,
Right.
theoretically, then the number of shares that you have times the value could be rolled into an IRA.
So it'd have to be in that person's name?
Correct.
That IRA for that person, not just somebody else's?
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
So much.
It is, and it's very confusing, so I tried to cover the topics that I thought was going to be, most prevalent for our group here. One topic I did not mention is pensions. I don't know if anybody who works for a company that has a pension. If you do, a lot of companies are starting to go away from pensions. I know Ingersoll Rand, when I first started there, they went through a program where they basically said, we are no longer funding the pensions. You have the option just to keep your pension, but we're not going to contribute to it anymore. Or you can actually forfeit your pension, and we will put a couple extra % in your 401k. So I was only there a year. I had like $200 in my pension. I'm like, 2%. But a lot of people that had some longevity there, they kept it. So it's just a kind of a decision. But a lot of companies are starting to get away from pensions. So, but if you do have does your company also offer a 401k or other?
I'm a teacher.
You're a teacher. Oh, okay. Yes, that's probably pretty secure. Although I think they do offer where you can have. They may even call it a tax sheltered annuity where you can contribute.
You can do a 403B.
403B, is that what it is? Okay, in addition to that, if you wanted to contribute more, so.
So, knowing that each individual's retirement needs will be different, is there some number that you, like a bottom number you need to shoot for to know that you're on the right track as far as?
You mean as far as per month, or are you talking about just a total dollar value in your phone?
In your fund, yeah.
That's kind of hard because it is very, very different. I don't know if there's a number that,
Yeah, most companies have moved away from trying to give a number because it's too general. So the idea would be to think the other way around, which is, okay, what can I save? And 10% would be of your own money is sort of the bare bones minimum savings rate to be able to be on track to have a meaningful amount of monthly income at normal retirement age
10% starting at what age?
as soon as possible. Yeah, sooner the better.
30 years ago.
Yeah, sooner the better. But, and again, that's aspirational, and then going from there would be to get up to 15% if possible. And many 401k plans now have quit showing folks prominently what their existing balance is because the average American is not good at multiplying an existing balance times a percentage to figure out how much per month it is. So most 401k paperwork folks, which are called record keepers, have started providing age 65 projected monthly income numbers. So hopefully your employer does that for you because that's a very valuable calculation.
They have good portfolios, like you can pick out like, what you want to do with your
Yeah.
retirement years and traveling or doing something other stuff.
And so the good news is, the average American income is about $50,000 per household, and Social Security will make up a big chunk of that income for the average person. But again, as Christine talked about, that's kind of, again, bare bones. So anything you can add on top of that is terrific. Folks that get in, it's a double-edged sword. You might think, oh, somebody makes more than $100,000, they're really, really lucky. Well, sort of they are, if they use it wisely, but also Social Security is going to make up very little of their monthly income, so more burden is on their shoulders to save more of that money to be able to provide a similar monthly income in their retirement years. So Social Security will be your friend as long as it's around. And if you wanted to miss the next several Sundays of services, we could stay here and debate whether or not Social Security is going to be around.
awesome. All right, are there any other questions or any? If you have not signed in, I don't know what's up the sign sheet
Nope.
there.
Some shady guy snuck in the back a little bit ago.
Yeah, I know. Keep 'em.
All I see is his feet.
Well, at least I'll keep them. This is my husband Patrick, for those who don't know. Anyway, please feel free to sign in and give your email address. People who have come to all these classes, I have your email address. And I will send this out so that way you have the contribution limits. That was the main reason, so you can have all that reference information and not have to write furiously. So thank you very much for coming, and if you have any other questions, please just think of anything, just let me know.
Thank you, Christine.
Yeah.
Thank you.